Spotlight Torrance, where we're exploring your city. I'm Christy Wilcox, and we're at the 15th Annual Antique Show. Let's go check it out.
This is my hobby gone bad.
So we set out on a mission to discover the latest and greatest vintage and antiques at the 15th year of the Antique Street Fair in downtown Torrance. This day was a special occasion because it was the annual celebration. Vendors come touting every odd and end you can think of. We'll stop to talk to an appraiser who tells you what your vintage and antique knickknacks are worth. Here, music fills the air and people eat and barter for new and interesting items. Cattle Headquarters is one of the many stops where we take a look at vintage apparel made from old flour and sugar sacks and prints that are made with a 70-year-old press. But one of our first stops was to meet up with one of the people who started it all. So a street fair wouldn't be a street fair without a street fair antique store.
Absolutely.
So how did you start your store?
We were looking for office space. We found a storefront. We decided to open an antique store. We were pretty dumb. We didn't know what we were doing. We made a lot of mistakes, but we've learned from them, and we've been here for 15 years.
Obviously, you're pretty successful. I mean, how much stuff comes in and out of the store?
You know, we started with everything, but we have a specialization now of vintage furniture. And my partner is really talented in refinishing, repurposing furniture, so it seemed like a natural fit.
So you're lucky to have a good partner.
Without him, we couldn't have done it.
Okay, so after the break, Julie's actually going to show me a vintage piece. We're going to talk about the difference between vintage and antiques. But do you know the difference between something that's vintage and something that's antique? Is an antique something that's 50 years or older, 75 years or older, or 100 years or older?
Is your body holding you back?
Where do you think you're going?
I want to go running.
Not with that knee, you're not.
Your bones and joints can say no at any age.
Let's not pick her up. What do you say?
Yet a lot of people in pain fight back.
Use your head. Save your back. My bride, my rules.
And regain their lives.
You gotta be kidding me.
Fight for your mobility. Visit anationinmotion.org. A message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons.
I'll take it from here.
I remember the moment.
I'll never forget that moment.
That changed my life.
At that moment, it hit me. This is why I joined the Guard. We're soldiers, always ready to protect our country. But we've also got communities. Family, friends, neighbors who count on us. I couldn't believe it. I just saved a life to somebody from my hometown.
See what it means to be a citizen soldier at NationalGuard.com.
At what age is the color that your skin was meant to be no longer beautiful? Every year, millions of young women try to change the skin they were born with and say they die for darker skin. Sadly, some actually do. Melanoma is the second most common cancer in teens and young adults, and one person dies from melanoma every hour. Change your thinking, not your skin. Stop tanning. Learn more at spotskincancer.org. A message from the American Academy of Dermatology.
Out on the streets, and I noticed there's a lot of vintage stuff out there, a lot of antique stuff. Tell me the difference between antique and vintage.
Well, an antique technically is over 100 years old. So, and vintage is anything less than 100.
We're going to talk about it's a vintage piece this time, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and what is special about this piece of furniture?
Well, this is my favorite piece. When they unloaded it, I said, please take it to my place. Look at the secret compartment.
I would have all my hidden secrets in this little spot right here.
This dresser is from the 60s. It was originally a blonde wood. We had it re-lacquered, repurposed.
Now, something that's a mid-century piece like this, what years are we talking?
Mid-century can be anywhere from 1940 to late 60s.
And if somebody else wanted to come along and, stain a piece like this or remodel, is it really difficult?
It's practically impossible to refinish blonde wood because they don't make the stain anymore.
so it takes a bit of time to do that. Now, a piece like this, what would it sell for?
This might be one of the more expensive pieces we have in the store. It's $1,500 for the dresser, the headboard, and the 2 nightstands. But we always are open for negotiation.
Well, that's what it's all about, wheeling and dealing, right? So Faith Lee is out and she's looking at some happy hats, so let's take a look.
Thanks, Christy. I'm here with more than 50 little heroes here at the Riviera Elementary, bringing some smiles to those in need.
If everyone has a story to tell, then Sherry Schreier's story would start off with a rather sad opening.
Many, many years ago, I lost my little brother and my mother and my father and my grandmother to cancer.
And those tragic years changed her life.
It was devastating to lose my family of cancer. But I knew I just had a mission to help children with cancer.
That's when she launched Happy Hats for Kids, a nonprofit organization to help uplift the spirits of hospitalized children with a simple gift.
For the past 23 years, we have made 800,000 of the most adorable happy hats for hospitalized children with cancer and other life-threatening illnesses.
And although these hats have the same pattern, it is the kids' creative decorations that make them one of a kind.
We're putting lots of smiley faces and glittery stuff and jewels. This side is kind of boyish, and this side is pretty girlish because it has all the jewels and the butterfly.
While the kids may not be saving lives, they're definitely nourishing a soul with these hats.
I want them to feel happy, and no matter who it is, or if it's a boy or a girl, I think they'll be really happy with it.
One of my favorite sayings, Mother Teresa, we can do no great things, but we can do small things with great love. And I think that the participation here, it shows that our kids can do small things to help others.
And Sherry Schreier's story might have a rough start, but it led her to a new chapter of helping others in need.
If I get a little smile from a crying child, it is very touching.
For Spotlight Torrance, I'm Faith Lee.
Thanks, Faith, for that tip. That's great. So we're talking about mid-modern in the last piece. Now we're talking about what exactly?
This is an Art Deco piece from the 1930s. Art Deco is a style actually that's really ornate.
Okay, so what makes the difference between the well-made and something that's not?
The way you can tell that this is a quality Art Deco piece is because of the celluloid handles, the beveled mirror, the etching, the dovetail drawers.
Who would be interested in a piece like this?
Lots of the 20-something people love Art Deco. It's a very popular style, even now. No, I originally priced it at $1,100, but it's down to $8.95. As I told you before, we make deals all the time.
Thanks, Julie, for showing me those pieces. Okay, so after the break, we're going to do some more antiquing, so stick around.
Oh, hey, bud. Where are you headed?
Just gonna hang out.
With Gary and Todd?
Yeah?
I've been meaning to ask you, is there any drinking going on in this crowd?
No.
If any of your buddies ever pressure you to take a drink, just tell them you promised your dad you wouldn't. I'd do anything to keep you safe.
Okay, I will.
I hope this is working.
I promise. Love you too, Dad.
They really do hear you. For tips on what to say, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
For others, it may have just been a summer job. But for me, it was training. Now I'm an Air Force pararescueman, and my job is to save lives. Make the right choices today, and be ready for the challenges tomorrow. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
I never thought I'd miss you half as much as I do. It must be love, love, love. It must be love, love, love. Nothing more, nothing less. Love is the best.
It must be love. It must be hospice.
When I was 16, I was in a bad car accident, and the doctors told me I would never stand again. Somehow, I knew I would. Progress has been slow, but family, friends, and strangers all started to pray for me. Whether you need support in a tragedy or just to make it through a bad day, prayer can make a difference. America, let's come together by believing with each other. For someone to come alongside you and say, I'm going to believe with you, it means a lot.
Welcome back to Spotlight Torrance, and we are at the 15th Annual Antique Street Fair. I found an appraiser. His name is David Brownlee, and you've been here for how long?
12 years.
12 years appraising people's stuff. Okay, so show me, what piece are we going to be talking about today?
It's buckets. These were used in California to dry mine. They would bring up ore out of the ground. They put these on chains, and the chain would be running on a motor. And they run 150, 200 pounds of rocks in each bucket.
And where is this from?
It's halfway between here and Bakersfield, where there were some dry mines. You can still see the crushing machines out there when you're driving down the freeway. And this is what they brought up the ore to crush.
Okay, now how do you figure out aging, how old something...
Structure.
Oh, okay.
The way it's designed. They had fire buckets that were similar. They're not reinforced for weight. Something like this would go between $400 to $600 at auction.
$400 to $600 at auction. And I would probably use this as a very expensive planter. Anyway, Haley Skeen caught up with a fencing family, very unusual, just like this whole deal. Let's check that story out.
Teenagers don't always have a lot in common with their parents, but that's not a problem for this father-daughter duo.
You get to talk about it, you get to theorize about it.
Sophia and Neil Lambrecht found common ground in the ancient sport of fencing. They've been at it for 5 years, though it's a toss-up as to who's better.
He's a hard opponent to go against because he's very strong.
The Lambrechts share a competitive spirit, but this activity holds an even deeper meaning for Niels.
You have this time together, and it really strengthens the daughter-father relationship, I think.
Sophia is a junior Olympic competitor, which could qualify her for a scholarship at the college of her choice.
They definitely look at that. If you're really good, they sign you up.
But before Sophia heads off for college, she and her dad still have a lot to learn from one another, in fencing and in life.
I'd like to think that I teach him things. I know I do. I definitely teach him some things, but yeah, it's give or take.
And that's something they both can agree on. For Spotlight Torrance, I'm Haley Skeen.
You have some other interesting objects here, UFOs, I'm not sure, unidentified objects. So you have some pans, and what is this piece over here?
That's a dessert mold.
This is a dessert mold, okay. So tell me about the pineapple.
It was a symbol of hospitality. So
hospitality.
You invite somebody to dinner, and this was a dessert mold.
How old is something like this?
It's about 1770, so it's right around the beginning of our nation.
Okay, so now you have some more pans over here as well. Tell me a little bit about these, because these are...
It's an old panning for gold.
For gold, California, like
yeah,
that kind of thing.
And this is a heart attack. You notice there's no ridges? That's the way they used to have to do it.
Oh,
now
yeah.
we get these little gold ridges that stops the gold from sliding over.
All right, so give me a value of something like this and this.
If this one wasn't chipped, about $600.
$600? Yeah. I need to shop a little bit more. All right, so stick around after the break. We will talk a little bit more, kind of take an adventure around here.
There are thousands of dogs and cats housed in shelters that need your help. Local shelter professionals and volunteers give their heart and soul to help unwanted animals and deserve your support. Americans give millions every year to national animal organizations, but unless you give to your local shelter, you can't be sure that money will make it to the pets that need it most. Adopt, volunteer, and give to your local animal shelter. To find your local shelter, go to humaneforpets.org.
You're looking at the #1 cause of lung cancer. That's why the Surgeon General issued this warning. Now you're looking at the #1 cause of lung cancer for non-smokers. That's why the Surgeon General issued this warning. Radon is an invisible radioactive gas that seeps inside your home from underground. Whether you smoke or not, radon can cause lung cancer. Protect your family. Have your home tested. Call 1-800-SOS-RADON. Radon problems can be fixed.
I'm starting to dread the weekends because of my husband's drinking. He doesn't stop drinking until he's out of control and passes out. A counselor told me to try Al-Anon family groups. I didn't think weekend drinking was that serious, but I'm glad I went. Are you troubled by someone's drinking? You might be surprised at what you could learn in an Al-Anon family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-AL-ANON or visit alanonfamilygroups.org.
With my last pit stop at the Antique Street Fair, I visited a booth with a unique line of vintage clothing. Cattle Headquarters is where I found my ace in the deck.
We make all the aprons here, and these are vintage inspired. These are my original designs, and we hand silk screen them here in California. And they're based on the feed sacks and flour sacks of the 30s and 40s. And people made aprons back in the 30s and 40s out of actual feed sacks or flour sacks, and a lot of the chuck wagon cowboy cooks actually made their aprons out of a feed sack or flour sack. So the idea is not totally original.
I grew up on a farm.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. And we had feed sacks there. And that's,
sure.
Yeah, so I'm used to seeing this, and I know it's the material. So how is the material different?
This fabric is called unbleached muslin. It's the color of cotton before it's bleached and dyed, and it gets real soft after you wash it once or twice. And then some of the potatoes and things like that were packaged in burlap, so it'd be kind of rough to wear. But the cotton feed sacks and flour sacks were usually made of really good fabrics, and people use the feed sacks and flour sacks for aprons and shorts and dresses and pillowcases, that kind of thing as well.
Like do you actually do the screen printing that goes on the shirts?
We do. We make, we hand silk screen these. I've been silk screening since I was in junior high school. And these are my original designs. And they're actual towns, but not real companies. Like the Randsburg Bakery has not been in business in 60 or 70 years. It's just a tiny little town in the desert. I was up there a couple of weeks ago for their Old West days.
How do you select the communities that are going to go on this shirt? Because obviously, who knows Randsburg, California?
Well, there's 69 people that live there, so 69 people.
It's 69 whole people.
69 whole people
in
that
California
live
too. It's a California city.
Exactly. These are smalls. These are mediums, large.
And wouldn't you know, he even had return customers who love toting his vintage accessories.
We have a cutlery business downtown LA, and we sell some vintage razors, straight razors. We always look for shaving mugs, the Old Spice shaving mugs, and that type of thing. So I always have my bag so I can carry all my goodies. So this is vintage.
Right. It's printed on an old press, the 65 to 90-year-old press. It was an actual sugar sack, and it's all cotton, and we use them for the pockets.
Oh, yeah, that's great. And I bought one for my best friend, and she loves it too.
Really?
Yeah.
That's always nice to hear.
So when you saw it, you were like, this is the purse.
Yeah, this is the bag I want. So it's my antique spot mate bag. I carry it every time we come.
And for those already preparing for Christmas shopping, he even has the perfect collection for old-fashioned holiday cheer.
This is our newest design, Ho Sweet Flour. It's from Great Plains Milling Company in Marienthal, Kansas. They're real towns, but not real companies, but they're inspired by feed sacks and flour sacks from the 30s and the 40s.
So how do you come up with Santa Claus?
Santa Claus was used a lot for advertising, for flour, for sugar, for rice, a lot of different products because he was so identifiable. When the companies would go to market, they would have piles of feed sacks or flour sacks, and it was easy for someone to say, oh, I want the Christmas one, or I want the Santa Claus one.
If you're interested in becoming a street vendor or just going to check it out, you can go online to torranceantiquefair.com, and you can email them at forsunday@aol.com. Well, that's it for Spotlight Torrance and the 15th Annual Antique Street Fair. I'm Christy Wilcox, and we'll see you next time.